Hey Adam, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. You're right, Jamie.
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
Yes, good. Thanks, mate. You been up to much today?
Just been a bit busy with some exam preparation, but apart from that, prepared for this and then good to go.
Stressful, or you're right about it? The
Yeah,
exam.
they're all right. They're all right. So far, they've been all right. But then we've got about another 2 weeks after this week. So yeah, but
Nice.
yeah. How are you finding things?
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Just relaxing, enjoying the summer, really, and yeah, waiting to hear if any clubs are interested, really. So
Well,
that's
hopefully.
my summer. Yeah.
Hopefully. Well, let's talk about that. We'll go ahead and I'll just explain what we'll do. So we'll talk about your career, of course, but I always like to start with where you started off playing football in the local levels with your parents. They got you into it. Was it siblings? And yeah, we'll just kind of go through your call ups and then move on to where you ended up at Barnet this year. So are you ready to start?
Yes.
Perfect. So today, Adam Thompson joins me. He went on Barnet on loan last season. He's played for a very amount of clubs such as Bury, Bradford, Rotherham, Leighton Orient, and of course Barnet. Adam, I welcome you to the show.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, pleasure to be on here, mate.
Thank you very much. Look, it's been a really interesting career you've had and a lot of loan moves. And we'll go ahead and talk about that later on, or the uncertainty of your career at times, we should say. But talk us through then the opening part of your journey into football. What was the first few memories that you had of the journey?
Um, just started off at Wormley, a local club to me, and my dad sort of got me into that, and remember going there, crying, coming away from it, being like, I don't like it. Probably first 4 or 5 times I did that. And then I was like, that's it, I'm not going back. So I stopped it for a little bit. And then my dad just said one day, I'll get you a pair of boots if you go back, a new pair of boots. And I was like, okay, then yeah, that sounds good. So I went back there and stuck with it for a little bit. And then he obviously saw that I probably had something that I didn't see. And then at 9 years old, got scouted for Spurs. 9 to 11 Spurs, got released from Spurs when I was 11, signed for Watford when I was 12, and stayed at Watford up until the age of about 22, I think it was. So yeah, just yeah, started fairly early, but it wasn't like a love at first sight thing in terms of football. It was definitely I needed to sort of get used to it, and yeah, at that age, as probably most of us, didn't like change, didn't like anything new, anything out of my comfort zone. So it was very much yeah, I had to be helped along the way by my dad, really.
Do you remember the first position that you played? Was it striker?
I think at that age, you run around in circles, don't you? But I think probably because I was maybe one of the better ones. Usually they put you in centre mid, don't they? So you can control as much as you can. So, but my dad always he was a defender, not at pro level, but at amateur level. So he sort of always had the thought that I had what it took to be a defender. So I think I got pushed sort of defender as soon as I started playing for teams where there was like, sort of positions involved. So yeah,
How many years were you involved in the grassroots level?
uh, probably only two. Yeah, so probably like from 7 years old to nine, really. And then when I got released from Spurs, confidence got hit massively. Family, because we're Spurs fans, the family sort of are that really hit us hard. As strange as it sounds, like you're 9 years old, 11 years old, and when I got released from Spurs, and then our family just sent shockwaves through us because we're Spurs fans, and at that age you think I'm in the academy, what could happen? Could I go all the way? Like imagine if I play, and then it ends, and you don't realise how much of an effect that has on you and your family. And I just didn't want to play again, so I went to play for a team called Gladstone Rangers, and I said to my dad, "That's me done. Like, I'm not going. I'm never ever going back to it. I can't do it." And again, he obviously knew what was going on, knew that it was just me. My confidence hit a little bit, and that I would be okay as long as he got me back into sort of that environment again, and hopefully a team that would give me confidence again. I'd be okay, and lo and behold, that's what happened with Watford. So, yeah,
Do you remember that first time that Tottenham gave you the phone call? Was it an email? Was it after a game? How did they get in contact with you?
to release me
No,
or
to
to
get
sign
you
me.
on board at the start.
So there was a scout called Bob Harbour he was a Spurs scout, then he was a Watford scout. Actually, signed me for scout me for both, and he came to a Wormley game when I was 9 years old. Amazingly, the scouts are going around this young, and he just said, "Look, I think he's got something. Like, can you come along to Spurs for a trial?" So that was that, and then yeah, he did the same again when I was 11 years old as well. After that, so yeah, it's just a scout who comes to watch the games and just sees if he sees players who've got a bit of potential, really.
Do you remember the first time that you stepped foot at Tottenham?
Yeah, I still remember it now. Yeah, so it was at the stadium. There's like an indoor AstroTurf bit next to it, and it was like an indoor bit and metal poles for five-a-side goals, and the parents sat up the top and looked through the sort of the screens, the windows, the plastic windows, and yeah, whenever I made a mistake, I'd look up to my dad, and it'd be like, "It's fine, it's fine," and yeah, it was just very. It was. I was just exposed to sort of high pressure fairly early, I think, or what I perceived as high pressure. So, and then obviously that's where sort of you either swim or sink, I suppose, along the way. And if you sort of deal with that pressure and get through it every year, then you end up at a point where you might get a professional contract. But obviously, I saw so many people along the way that, and this wasn't a bad thing. And part of me envies them now that they got out when they did a little bit, because they've now had their life and they've probably been able to enjoy themselves a bit more, whereas it's very, very structured with football. And but all the sacrifices you sort of make along the way, and then you become a professional footballer in the end. So yeah, I think it was. I just remember feeling that pressure every time I went in there. I was like, "It's Spurs. I need to perform here." So yeah.
I was going to say, so your dad then was quite a relaxed guy in terms of if you went pro or not. I'm sure he didn't really mind. But did you feel that pressure because it was Tottenham, because you were the Tottenham fan?
Yeah, definitely. And my mum, my dad, my whole family, they are just supporting me no matter what I'll decide. But I think because it was Spurs, it was that bit of special. Like, you start to dream, don't you? And we've had season tickets since I was that age up until we still got them now. So we're big Spurs fans, and I think me now as a dad, I'd probably be a bit more balanced, but I can definitely understand how families, if their children go to teams they support and play for them, you can start to dream and you think, oh, imagine that. And so yeah, it was maybe that added a bit of pressure to it as well, or maybe it was just if I would have gone to West Ham, Chelsea, anywhere, I still would have felt that pressure, because it's that first sort of, instead of just going on a Saturday or a Sunday and having a kick around with your mates and your dad being coach at Wembley, suddenly it's like, right, we need to win it. We've got Arsenal today. This is a rivalry. It's like, we're 9 years old. So it's completely different. But yeah, probably got me used to what was needed early on.
So you were at Spurs for a couple of years. Do you remember the time there? I mean, you mentioned Arsenal with that game. Did you play Arsenal? Do you remember that result?
Yeah. No, Arsenal were very good when I was younger. They used to be massive, athletic lads, and yeah, it's just we got battered every time by them. There was a better team in the younger age groups. At the time, I think obviously they could have the pick of North London, really, because they was up there, winning premierships and stuff like that. So, but yeah, no, we was okay. Yeah, I think we was probably about middle of the table sort of thing. Don't remember too many results, really, to be honest. No.
So, do you remember that feeling, though, of getting released, of getting told? Because, look, I talked to so many professionals along the way who've made Tottenham academies, who've made these sorts of academies, and the majority of them have been released over that period. Well, all of them have. And they always tell me a very similar story. But tell us your story, how you got released from Tottenham.
You get to the end of the season, or towards the end of the season, and you start having, you know that there's decisions going to be made. And it was just after a train session, and the coach just pulled in my dad, I think it was, maybe my mum and my dad. And they just had a chat with him, come out, and we went back in the car, and there was no real, I don't know if they told me straight away in the car, if they waited till I was home, but you could tell there was a change in atmosphere, and you could tell it wasn't, I could sense something had been said in there, and probably, I can't really remember, but I do remember sort of thinking, something's happened here, and obviously that was it. I'd just been told wasn't quick enough, and I wasn't fit enough at the time. So that was the reasons. So yeah, and it was just like, you could tell, even though it's 9 years old and stuff, you could tell, like I say, like my mum and dad were so shocked and sad. Probably for me, I didn't really know what to feel, but I was probably sad for them as well as for me. It was the first real disappointment in my life. And you don't really know how to deal with it, really. It's just like, I don't want that to happen again. It's just that that feeling of this isn't great, so like I don't want that to happen again, so I just won't put myself in that position again. So yeah, it wasn't nice, but yeah, especially at that age, to be told you're not sort of fit enough, and you sort of think that's probably something we could work on. But yeah, they got to make decisions, and they made it, and obviously it's turned out the way that made me the person that I am today, I suppose.
Of course. And look, those journeys don't usually go down straight paths. They're usually quite wobbly along the way. And you ended up at Watford after that team in the middle. I don't want to pronounce the team because I don't know how to pronounce it. So I think you should do it for us.
What was that? Oh, sorry.
Glads-
Gladstone Rangers.
Gladstone Rangers. So you were there in the middle, and then you signed for Watford on the academy side. But you were unsure when you left Tottenham. You were a bit unhappy, of course. You were a bit emotional. You said you didn't want to be a professional footballer again. Why did that mindset change? How did that mindset change over those few years?
So it was over the course of a summer. So I got released from Spurs at the end of that season, and obviously then going into the next season, you play sort of tournaments for teams. So obviously I was joined up with Gladstone Rangers. You played tournaments. We was winning every one. I was the main man. You just sort of think, here we go. I've got confidence back. Like this is what I want. And being at Spurs or being at academy at the time, what I thought that's what I sort of linked being at Spurs and the academy, the same sort of thing. That disappointment, that pressure. I was like, I don't want that. So I said that to my dad, and he was like, look, mate, it's fine, completely fine. Just enjoy yourself. Enjoy myself. Got scouted by, I think it was Charlton, someone else, and Watford. And it might be West Ham. Charlton, West Ham, and Watford. And it was Bob Harbour who was a scout out at Watford who scouted me at Spurs. So he had a relationship with my dad anyway. And he said, look, mate, this is what's happened. Do you fancy going along? And I was like, no, like not at all. He was like, no worries. Didn't push it for a few days. Asked again. Didn't push it for a few days. I was adamant. And in the end, he said, he sort of just, I always think back to this because it's like, what would I do now as a dad? And it's sort of like, you don't want to force your children into anything. But if you know what's right, and obviously he could see that I had something, then you've got to find a way to sort of show that to your child. And that's what he did. And he just said, mate, look, go once. And if you don't like it, I promise you, I will not say anything again. I went once. And it's just, again, a little bit of pressure, but there was a bit of a different feel about it. The coach was really, really nice. I remember his name now, Rob. And he just, it was just a different, nicer sort of family feel about it. Not as much, we have to do it in this session. You have to be spot on. It was more like, let's just have fun. And like, these are the drills we're going to do, but enjoy whilst you're doing it. And there's smiles on faces. And I thought, okay, I can do this. And went along there for 6 weeks. And they said, look, can you stay for another 6 weeks? So it wasn't like, we want you straight away. I was like, yeah. And in the end, they signed me. That was how it went. But the story was in that off season as well. I'd done so much running. I was running around tracks. I was doing road running. I was doing swimming 60 lengths every Friday. I was doing like quick feet sort of drills and stuff like that, which my dad had sort of put on for me and helped me do that, hill running, hill sprints. And basically I was quite quick at that point. I was one of the quickest at Watford, and I'm definitely one of the fittest, and which had changed from Spurs. So it had been a complete Rocky-esque change in me because of the work my dad did with me. So it was a bit of a turnaround mentally and physically that summer, definitely.
That's interesting that you said that about Watford. That it's more of a family feel, and I do get that when I go down to Watford. I do feel, I suppose it is a smaller club, and Tottenham do have the leverage where they can just go and pick up the majority of players, as Watford are more of a local family-friendly club, like you just said. Why do you think that is? Do you think it is because Tottenham are the bigger club?
I can only go off my experience, and obviously my experiences are from 9 to 11, so I don't know. So it's definitely changed now, and it'll just go off the coaches, but the coach I had when I was 9 to 10 was great. Ray Nicholson, his name was, and I remember now. And he was smile, just have fun. And look, if we win, we win, and we want to win. Of course, we want to win, but let's just have fun, express yourself. And then the coach the next year was complete opposite of that, and it was more, okay, we're getting getting older now, 10 years old, yeah. Getting older now, we need to do these drills properly, we need to do this and all that. And it was just like, wow, okay, like this isn't fun at all. So I'm a big believer in leaders and coaches in any walk of life massively affect your experience. That affected me a lot, I feel. And when I went back to Watford, it was a similar feel to how Ray was for my first year at Spurs. So I think it was just the coach at that time. And there's nothing against him, obviously. It's just that was his capability at the time. But it didn't help me, and I don't think it helped many of the other players as well. And that made me feel like I love the football. And that's what I think a lot. Going up through the ages, some players fall out because of the coaches they've had or the leadership they've had, whether that's at home or whether that's at football. And they had what it takes, but they've just had the wrong sort of guidance, and they've their view on it's been tainted a bit. So I'm lucky that I had someone there like my mum and my dad to sort of say, this isn't what it all looks like. This is just one person's opinion, one person's view, and this is just one person that's sort of tainting your view, but just have a look. And I've definitely found that going through football that you have different seasons and you'll have completely different memories of them because of, in my opinion, the leadership styles and how they make you feel.
So you were at Watford for a long, long time, more than 5 years, and that was a big step up for you. So you've gone from a few clubs now, but now Watford starts to feel probably a bit more like a home. Why did that keep happening? Why did you keep staying at Watford? And obviously, it's kind of about your choice whether you got released or stayed. But personally and mentally, why were you so happy at Watford?
I think every coach I had there was very was what I needed at that time. So when I first went in there, it was enjoy yourself and smile. Then it got a bit more serious, but still enjoy yourself. And then you got to a point where I was probably one of the better players as well coming up through the academy at Watford because of all the work I've done. And so at 12 years old, I got a 4-year contract along with 2 others. So at that point, it gave me a bit of confidence as well. So the confidence linked with the enjoyment I was having definitely helped me flourish, shall we say, and show what I'm actually really about. And then obviously from then on, once you're there for 4 or 5 years, it then just feels like home then, and then you're in your comfort zone again. And as a young anyone really, a young person, I feel like your comfort zone is where you you enjoy yourself probably most. So yeah, and you can show your ability of not feeling that much pressure. So that's what I think it was really, up until definitely the 16 and 18. And then once you get to 16s, it gets a bit more serious, and 18s of course. And I think that is when I was at a point where I wanted it to become more serious, because I sort of felt I then could see I had a little bit of the ability to make it. So I wanted to be pushed on then. So things just happened at the right time for me. I think I got the right coaches at the right time. And I think the Watford Academy had a very good coaching setup in general. So I think I was lucky, yeah.
It's a 4-year contract is what you signed. So Watford put so much trust into you to be able to sign that 4-year deal. Do you remember that feeling, that buzz? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was a strange one. It was like there was conversations going on like, look, there's going to be 3 players offered 4-year contracts, and no one really knew who it was. And you don't know how it gets out at these ages, but it's all politics, isn't it, with the parents and you know, oh, is it going to be him? I don't think he should have one, but what about him? He's better than him and stuff like that. And you just sort of, I remember distinctly feeling at that point, I don't really care because I'm enjoying it here. I wonder if I do get one, because I wonder sort of who, if I don't, who they rate ahead of me and in my position. But it wasn't like I was going to be really angry if not. And then I think they chose 1 defender, 1 midfielder, 1 forward, and at that point, it was like year by year. You know, are you signed for this season under 11s? Yeah, are you signed this season? And then to get a 4-year contract at that point, it was just like unprecedented for me. I had no idea, sort of thing. So I felt like it was a massive commitment to me. I felt really, really valued by it. And yeah, I remember my family we had a big celebration and just sort of said like, this is great. But at the same time, that was a point where I think I sort of showed myself and everyone else that just because I've been given that doesn't mean I'm like, right, 4 years now, lay back. If anything, I pushed on even more, because I felt like people looked at them 3 people that got their 4-year contracts and sort of thought, oh, like, why did you get a 4-year deal? Or like, oh, how come he didn't get one? And all that. So you're always going to get people judge you, and that's probably the time when you can relax the least. That was my mentality, I think. And I think that's sort of held me in good stead through my career.
You mentioned in your really early days you were a midfielder because you were one of the best players there. At Watford, were you always a centre back?
Yes, through the younger age groups, centre back, and then as I sort of moved up into 16s, 18s, probably physically hadn't developed as much as maybe other players did at that point. Maybe hit puberty a bit later and progressed a bit later physically. So I sort of moved to more of a right back role, and then definitely when I was sort of got involved in the first team at 17, I was not physically strong enough to be a centre back. So I was right back then as well. Yeah.
You got called up for your country to be able to play for Northern Ireland. I mean, let's go in and talk in depth about these games. But firstly, at 18 years old, you were at Watford at the time. Neil Worthington was the manager. Was that a phone call?
Yes, it's a phone call. Yeah, I was doing my homework. I remember it now. Doing my homework, and then I think they called my parents, my home phone at the time. Obviously, I don't have a home phone now. I don't know if many people do, but I called my home phone, and they come up and just said, we've just had a call from, I don't think it was Nigel Worthington. I think it was someone to do with the FA, with the Irish FA. And they said, we'd like you to come. So, sorry, this was at under 16s. I got called up for the first time. That was my under 16s. And then from then on, you sort of get called 17s, 19s, 21 first team. But I remember that first under 16s call up, and it was just like, again, I was like, I don't understand really this is a different world, like people playing international. And I'm like 16 years old at Watford, and I'm like, I didn't even know, like, Watford I don't think it was in the Premier League then. And I was like, I didn't even know I'd be considered for that. And it was just like again, my family was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, what a dream this is. Like, I qualified through my mum's mum, my nan. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I was just like, wow. And again, that was a lot of out of my comfort zone, a lot of pressure. And again, the same thing happened to them. Their coaching staff, Desi Curry, unbelievable, made it all so enjoyable. And it was just like, yeah. And then from that point, just gave me the platform, really, yeah.
You got called up to play for your country at the age of 16. I mean, talk us through, you know when you see England and you see, like, I don't know, Trent Alexander-Arnold coming out of the car with his luggage or whatever he does. Were you obviously in the younger setup? Was that something that happened to you as well?
What, getting a car there?
Well, how did you get there? Like, what was that process like?
So the first game was in Northern Ireland. So I remember got a flight over there, and I think it's the first flight I ever took, like, on my own. And I think, and yeah, so went over there and met up with the squad. Done training camp before in Northern Ireland somewhere, and then the first game was against. Wow, that's really bad if I don't remember that. I think it might have been Belgium, and I think we won. It was a game where we was probably expected to lose. We won 1-0. I played well, and from that point, obviously, results sort of breed belief, and I had a bit more belief in me from then, and then you sort of get called up for 17s and 19s. But yeah, it was. I remember my parents coming over, and they just watched every international game I played. They watched every football game I played, but international especially was just like, this is just like a dream. Like, this is just a different world. Like you always, they always hoped that sort of I was going to sort of do well in football, but you never dream that I'm going to then play for Watford and then eventually play for an international, play for a country sort of thing. So it was just like such a humbling experience, and I got so much pleasure because I knew my family were just so excited at it all, and that made me excited as well. So it was amazing.
You've gone from being at Tottenham, at Wormley, being really happy, going to Tottenham, coming out really unhappy, and then deciding that you don't want to be a professional anymore. Obviously, it's gone down a different path. And for the majority of people that I've spoken to, it's not really, I mean, for you keep saying the word excitement, happy, fun. I mean, this isn't words that are usually associated with academy football. Usually it's a lot of pressure onto people. But you said you felt the pressure, but you still had fun at the same time. Again, was that just through coaches? I mean, playing for your country, how was there still fun involved in that when you have to win?
In terms of the club side of it, I think, like I said, it's completely dependent on what coach you get. And I think I was lucky and that I went to a club like Watford who had a good coaching structure in place. And they've had coaches in their youth system go on to do good things. Mark Warburton, he was with me pretty much from 12 years old, with our age group up until the first team. And he's obviously gone on to do be a manager of many teams. I think most recently he's assistant manager at West Ham, but managed teams in the Championship and done really well. And then you got coaches like I just lost my train of thought there. But there's been other. Oh, sorry, Nick Cox was there as well, who's now the I think he's head of academy at Manchester United. So at the time, there had people there that were obviously going to go on and do better things. And I think I was just lucky, honestly, because you look back and you look at the Spurs experience and you think, I had a great coach, made me enjoy it, made me sort of show my ability. And then in the space of 3 months over the summer, you got a coach that makes me think I'm not that good and I don't enjoy it and completely changes things. So yeah, in terms of that, it's at that age, I honestly believe you just got to let players enjoy themselves, and you can teach the basics and stuff, but unless they enjoy it, they're not going to show their real potential anyway. And in terms of the international stage, with respect, at that time, I think it wasn't the most professional. The training wasn't that professional, maybe, and the facilities weren't. I don't know what the funding was like at that time, but it didn't seem as professional as maybe what was happening on the club side of things for me at that time. So I think that helped me personally, because I sort of thought there was a bit less pressure put on it. If you're going to these big things and like, right, we've got there's a massive gym there and you've got to be there then, you've got to be there then. I remember going on the first day and the manager was sort of driving a minibus to the training ground and he was sort of break, and we were sort of bobbing ahead to these, banging out the tunes in the minivan. I was just like, what's going on here? Like, I was expected to be right, no one talking to each other, this, you've got to win your places, it's international, I'm better than you. And the shit was just like, it was a group of lads, most of them Northern Irish, and it was a group of scallywags, and we just had a laugh, and it was just like, that's exactly what I needed again. And, a great set of players, all from different clubs. And the manager brought us all together and made us have fun and let us enjoy it. So I think that's the answer to your question, really, is that it was a high pressure situation, which was made a lot easier by coaches. And they made it seem like there was no pressure involved in it. Whereas other coaches and other players I know that have had coaches that have definitely brought that pressure to the forefront and made them realise, by the way, this is high pressure here. Whereas we sort of forgot about it when we played in the coaches I had, luckily, up until probably 16s when it gets a bit more serious, maybe.
You were at school at this time of call-up, and you were at school at the time of playing through several academies. So in school, there's usually one or two people that are playing for academies. In Hertfordshire, for example, Tottenham or Watford are the academies that the majority of people would play for. So you must have been one of the lucky ones in the school, if you can remember that. But were you missing out on education to be able to go and pursue this dream of becoming the professional player?
Year 7, year 8, no. Year 7, year 8, year 9, no. Because I was at Broxbourne, my local school, and you just trained Tuesday, Thursday evenings and played Saturday. So it didn't really affect you. Affected my mum, who had to drive me to Watford there and back Tuesdays and Thursdays. My brother doing his homework in the car and having his dinner in the car whilst watching me play, sort of thing. But in terms of me, it didn't affect my education too much. I just had to get a bit more homework in on the other days. Then after that, Watford set up a project which is basically based on Ajax, who do they link football with school. So you all go in the same school, and instead of doing, for example, food technology or design and technology or art, you do your fundamentals, your English, your maths, your sciences, and then in other lessons you go and you do football. And it's basically an aim to get you as close to 10,000 hours as possible, which is apparently the magic number of what you need to be elite at anything. And so we all moved to a school called the Harefield Academy. I think everyone in that squad, apart from one player, moved to the same school. And it wasn't as successful successful as a school as what I was going to already. So my grades definitely suffered, obviously with not being too much focus on the education as well, probably more education on the football side of things, but my football improved. So I think we all went in there with an understanding that probably would be the case to some extent. Obviously work hard on your academics, but this is to get you 10,000 hours here. It's not to get you a degree or anything like that. So that's what happened year 10 and 11. So yeah, I think it was definitely hard from there to sort of keep my grades up and getting a minibus every day and probably getting on there at 6 a.m. and then coming back after and stuff. But I was getting more football in, and it helped my ability, helped my career probably, I think.
The call up for the senior team came at 18 years old, and Neil Worthington was the manager at the time, as I said earlier. Do you remember that first game? I've got them down here, but could you talk us through that debut game?
Yeah, debut game was I come on against Scotland, probably 60th minute or so. I think it was about 3-0 down already by then. And it was in like a Carling Nations Cup, like a tournament. And it was at the Aviva Stadium in Ireland. And I just remember going there and thinking like, wow, this is ridiculous. Like, because at that point I had played for Watford a couple of times, and it was obviously a great stadium, Watford, but like it wasn't the Aviva Stadium. And I remember thinking like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is like what I'm striving for. Never ever thought I'd have a chance coming on. In the 60th minute, he sort of threw me on at centre back, and I remember playing. Kenny Miller was the striker for Scotland, and at the time he was like Fox in the bot. He was like a good striker. And I remember thinking like, oh no, here we go, already 3-0 down, and it stayed at 3-0. And my dad was there to watch, and just like ridiculous moment again. Like I think we got like a police escort to the stadium on the way there, and I'm just like, what? I don't understand what's going on here. Like, is this like what it's like to be like a top footballer? So yeah, that was unbelievable experience. And then I think a few days later, or the next meet up, I then got a start through that performance against Republic of Ireland, and that was a bit of a different experience. So I played that game and we lost. I think we was 3-0 down after a certain amount of time, maybe 50, 60 minutes, and I was last man, pushed Robbie Keane over, and got a straight red card. So end up losing 5-0. So it was, but like, I didn't really care. I was just like, I'm just playing international football against like these, Kenny Miller and Robbie Keane. I'm just like, it was just like a dream, and like I just didn't believe what was happening. Which, looking back now, maybe if I would have had a different mindset, I've been like, look, I deserved a bit. I think I'm actually better than some of these players here. I think I should be I should be pushing to be one of the better players here. I might have played differently, or it might have worked out differently. But at the time, I was just like, so like, oh my word, this is unbelievable, and just sort of get through the game. But no, just like one of the proudest moments for me and my family, definitely.
What sort of emotions are going through you then? And it must be all sorts of emotions when the manager says you're on the bench, go and get ready, go and warm up, and then you're running up and down the touchline. The Aviva Stadium, a really good stadium, may I add, really nice. It's where Liverpool should have been, Europa League, but yeah. But yeah, let's talk about that then. So the manager, you're on the bench. The manager says, go and warm up. What sort of emotions at 18 years old to go and represent your country are going through you?
In all honesty, I cannot remember the exact emotions, but I think when I then was on the side of the pitch, I think I just vaguely remember feeling nervous, but not the most nervous I've ever felt, because we was 3-0 down already. So I was almost like, what's the worst that can happen? And any footballer will tell you, if they're honest, once you go 1-2-0 down and the team aren't playing great, that's the best time for you to come on, because it's like, well, what's there to lose? I'm either as bad as them and we're all the same, or if I'm better than them, then I've done my job and I sort of stand out a little bit. So it was a nothing to lose sort of mindset, and yeah, I think at that age as well, sometimes you don't realise actually where you actually are and the scope of it. I know I said already that like it was a bit of a dream of like what's going on, but you don't realise the magnitude of being 17, 18 and making your debut for your international country. I just didn't realise sort of the scope of it. So it was a bit of nerves, but probably most excitement, that one. The next game, the Republic of Ireland one, was definitely nerves. And I definitely remember in that first half just being like, please just don't give the ball away, don't give it, and playing within myself massively. And yeah, and that's what it can do to you at that age. But it's all about learning at that age, isn't it? So, but no, it was just Yeah, it was very nervous times, but that first debut was probably more exciting, I'd say.
You mentioned you played for Watford a few times, and we all know what Vicarage Road, sorry, is like on a good day. On a bad day, we don't really hear too much, but on a good day, it can be really, really buzzing over there. And I spoke to a player who was on the bench when they played in the Europa League against Fenerbahce, and they said that they spoke to their teammates that are playing on the pitch. And on a good day, obviously, this is in Watford terms, when you're playing on the pitch, the atmosphere zooms out. Like you don't focus on the atmosphere because you just essentially it just blocks it out completely. When you're playing, for example, for Watford, when they're chanting your name, when they're singing Watford songs, are you the same? Do you just zoom out completely, or do you hear what the fans are saying, and does that go into your brain?
I'm trying to think back. I think there's definitely times when, because at that time, the stadium wasn't packed out really, and we was probably like a mid to lower side championship side. When I broke into the team, we was a very young team. We was just sort of maybe surviving the championship and doing well to survive because we had to use our academy. We didn't have that much money, so you could probably hear a few more people, because it was more sort of scattered around the stadium. But because of the age I was, because I come through the academy, I think you just get a massive free hit for probably your first season or two, really, as a young lad. Because it's just like, if you have a bad game, it's like, well, he's young, isn't he? Like, give him a chance. And then if you have a good game, it's like, oh my word, he's the best thing in the world. So there was never any negativity. Whereas I think as I've got older, and if you sign someone, especially if you're seen to maybe be put on half decent wages and stuff like that, then like at Bury, for example, when we all went there and it happened, I think they're almost waiting to sort of throw apples at you as such, and I think there's a complete. I definitely felt that at Watford, that the fans are just behind me from the start, and I ended up doing quite well, to be fair. So I was lucky, but even if I hadn't, I feel like they would have stuck behind their academy lads massively. So yeah, I think it was probably the perfect club and the perfect sort of atmosphere, stadium for me to sort of break into a first team with, really.
Well, they thought that a first team experience would be good enough for you, so they sent you on loan to Wickham. So a good loan move, would you have said, for you overall at your time there?
Yeah, so the first season I broke straight into the first team and played a few times for the first team at Watford, and then the following season they probably thought, right, okay, let's get some experience in him. So first ever loan, I'm trying to think back now, was my first loan Wickham or Brentford?
It was Wickham.
Okay, so Wickham, yeah, no, didn't go well.
Sorry, no, it was Brentford. Sorry, yeah.
Brentford. Okay, yeah, so Brentford went well. So I remember, so Jamie.Mccreedy was the manager when I broke in through Watford, and done really well under him. Sean Dyche then got the manager's job when Jamie.Mccreedy left to go Cardiff, I think, and Sean Dyche sort of set his stall out, and he's want experience. And I rate you, but you need to get some more experience. So sent me straight to sort of Brentford, and I spent the season at Brentford, and it was a really good experience. Played about 20, 25 games, and really good. There was a good League One team, nearly made the playoffs, and it was considered a successful season. And I sort of thought it was a good start to professional life, really. You know, breaking through Watford, then had a full season at Brentford, playing quite a few games, and I'm at this point I'm thinking, got it cracked here. You just sort of go like that, don't you, through this career, and you start moving up, and then hoping that following season, I've got a few games League One, so now I play at Watford, and that's how your career goes. And I think that's when the takeover happened, maybe at Watford, and things start to change. And then, like you said, I went on loan to Wickham the following season and played 2 games, and horrendous for both, I think, and I just couldn't get my rhythm. And again, it was just a massive learning curve of like how you. And no, it wasn't down to any coach or for any reasons really, but just moving around and out of my comfort zone. And I don't really know what the reasons were, but it just wasn't happening for me that season. I think it went Wickham, then went Barnet, played the last 20 minutes of a game, then dislocated my shoulder in training the day after, and I was just like, that was it. That season written off, really. So, Yeah, just the contrast of loans at that early age, really, and just trying to find your feet and trying to find that the environment that sort of suits you.
You mentioned going on loan to Barnet, and you just kind of summed it up there for us. You then moved to Southend on a loan, on return from Barnet, and then you kind of found your rhythm there because you signed immediately for them once you returned from that loan spell. So talk us through that time at Southend, a big club, by the way, really good atmosphere.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I went there on trial initially for a trial. I think Phil Brown said, "Yeah, come down," and I played against West Ham on the 21s, and I done well. And they said, "Okay, yeah, we'll take you on a loan, 6-month loan." I remember going there. I just remember thinking like, "This is completely different feel to what I've ever had on loan." It was a really together group. It was a bit of a it had sort of that sort of crazy gang feel to it. Of like there was a few characters there that were really like charismatic and full of life, and it was just something that really at that point in my career they could have been like, "You young lad and you're from Watford and stuff," and they took me under their wing and just opened my eyes to the lower leagues and how togetherness can really just get you through a season and how much it can help your performance and the results and I loved it there pretty much and that's a summary of my whole time there really. We had a great group and I got along really well with them all and they made me feel at home there, even though I was probably about over an hour away from my home, and settled in straight away, and after 6 months I think signed a permanent there, and that was definitely one of the happiest times of my career, I think.
How happy were you, though, to go through these loan moves and now going ahead and signing the contract that probably you were so desperately in want of, to go ahead and see that a club really wants you as much as you would want them?
Yeah, it was. It got to a point, like I said, when you're going through your loan. So I played for Watford, and then you go on loan to Brentford, like I said, I think I'm going like that. And then the season after, you sort of get that first sort of hit of like, oh, like, I'm not moving up anymore. I'm sort of moving sideways, if anything, probably a bit more down. And then, like I said, the Italian takeover happened, and I was bringing in players just of a different calibre, and the academy lads you sort of see sort of falling away and signing for that lower league team. That lower league team, or maybe just not in the game anymore, and you sort of think, oh wow, like the reality sort of hits you. So then I was just grateful at that point to just get a club really, like you said, of this like a size of Southend, with the potential, with the amount of fans they have there, and the setup, and I was just grateful really to start it felt like that was the real start of my actual career, because up until that point I still felt at Watford as if I was always an academy player. Even when I was sort of 20, 21, you still sort of feel like you're not taken seriously. You still feel like you're just coming up through the ranks still. And that was the point where it's like a club has signed me as a professional player now, a man, and I feel like this is where I can sort of start my career. So that was the shift in mentality was important for me, I think.
Then Berry came along. So I believe your contract expired at Southend, and then Berry picked you up. And can you talk to us about that? First, of the time at Berry that you played a number of games. I think it was 45 appearances. But then going ahead and talking about the time at Berry where the club completely folded.
Yeah, so firstly, the last season at Southend, I think I had a really good season. I think I played 40 odd games. I think we missed out on the playoffs with the last kick of the game. Of the season, I think Millwall got a winner. It was offside. I'm not bitter, and they ended up getting promoted. And obviously, they've stayed in the Championship ever since. So we was very close to getting promoted. And that team that year we had was very, very good. And I thought I'd have offers from higher up, and Millwall were and ahhing when they went up as well, whether to take me on. And my agent sort of said, "Look, Bury are interested," and we'd beaten Bury in the last day of the season, and they were relying on other results to keep them in the league. And I was thinking, "Bang on, we've just missed out on the playoffs here." And with Southend, and I'm 23. I've played most of the games. I think I've done well. You know, we need to be looking a bit higher. And he's like, "Okay, but I'll just listen to them if I was you." So I went there, and obviously it's probably well known to everyone that they had a bit of financial backing that season, or that couple of seasons, to their detriment in the end. And and yeah, it was an offer I couldn't turn down. Went there, and it was just, I went there. Obviously, the offer was good, but I went there because they was getting all of the best sort of players from the league, or they was getting like your Jermaine Beckford, and I'm sort of thinking, okay, that, there's some signings that stood out, and they was like, we're just going to get all these players, and we're going to try and win the league. And I was like, okay, you do what you want, but all I want to know is that you're going to be up there and you're going to get promoted. And I honestly believe with the players they were signing that would happen. Massive, really, really good learning curve for me. It was that, because it was a group of players that were individually very, very good, very talented, some of the best in the league probably, and as a team and in the change room that season was toxic and horrible, and it just did not work, and the leadership was horrendous. The mixture of everything was just toxic, and so I signed a 3-year deal there, and after 2 games, I think I got sent on loan for a 6-month loan. So I went to Bradford on loan, come back for the rest of the season after that at Bury, and under Ryan Lowe, and Lowe was a lot better leader, but the damage was already done then. The team and the dressing room would taken us down already. So I went down, probably the lowest point of my definitely the lowest point of my career. Off the pitch was as close to depression as you can get. If not, I was depressed. I was moved away from home for the first time, missing my family, just living on my own in a flat, just no friends, nothing. The team didn't go out together and stuff like that. So it was a really tough time for me, with everything considered. The off season, I got to come home, see my family, have some good time, and I was just like revitalised, and I was just like, this can either be me, like just keep going down and let that sort of define me, or you can work hard like I did when I was 11 years old, and my dad sort of took me through that sort of that summer, and I pretty much had a similar summer to that, and come back, probably must have lost 5 kilograms at least. Lowy and Stephen Schumacher were like, I look like a different person, like body wise and just like mentally. And that season they recruited players that were just unbelievable people, and I never thought that would be possible, to have such a change in from the toxicity to the togetherness in that 2 years. And obviously we had some good players still there from the season before that they'd signed to go up in League One, in League Two, so that helped as well. But some of the players like Nicky Adams and players like that just got the galvanised the change room, and that was probably one of the best seasons of my career. So it was a massive roller coaster whilst I was there. But yeah, it was that last season was so good. Yeah.
Rotherham, you went on loan to Rotherham, and we all know what happened to them this season. They have been relegated. But there's one moment that sticks out in that time at Rotherham. Would you happen to know what that would be?
But in my first season, or no, go on.
There was a card that was issued.
Card? Oh, sorry, the red card. Yeah.
Talk us through that red card, because it was on the newspapers, wasn't it, at the time? So talk us through that.
Yeah, I was playing a few games, doing well, and there's a cup game, FA Cup game against Hull at home, and I remember playing against this young lad who's starting. I'd never heard of him before. On left wing for them, I was right back, and I remember looking at him in the warm up and looking, as we line up, and he looked so sort of raring to go, like this is my chance. And once you get to an age, and I was probably about 26 then, you sort of know what. Whether a young player is either sort of scared and or I'm not sure what's going on here, or is like, this is my chance to prove it and I'm going to do everything. And I could see him, and he was literally half my height, and I just thought, I've got to get into him early here and sort of let him know, look, hang on, you're not going to just sort of try and impress the manager here. Like, you're going to have a game here where I'm going to sort of use my experience and sort of thing. So early on, that went to plan, really. And this player, was Keane Lewis Potter, who is obviously now an unbelievable player for Brentford. And in that game, he was sharp. And I remember thinking, I cannot leave him at my sight here. A cross came in from the other side, went over my head, and he's on the byline of the other of my side of the pitch, and I remember thinking, I can't let him run at me here, because once he takes me into that box, it could be a penalty, or he could cut inside and shoot. So he sort of chested the ball and he's sort of gone back, and the ball's popped up, and I've just thought, right, this is my chance, and I've just sprinted at him and just sort of obviously gone for the ball and tried to just clean him out. And he's got a little touch just before I got there, and the pictures online make it seem as if I've cut him in half, but it wasn't a great tackle, but it was no intent. And I messaged their manager after and said, look, I did not mean anything at all, but that was a red card. And so yeah, and I don't get many red cards, to be fair, but it was just one of them games, and one of them players, obviously he's shown he's gone on to do things which I sort of knew, like I cannot give him an inch here.
When you get a card or a yellow card, red or yellow card, what does that feel like for you? Because I remember getting one in grassroots, nothing compared to your level, and I feel a bit, what my parents going to think, what could my players think? But what do you think as someone with fans behind you as well?
I don't know. I always just chat to my dad after them times, and my family, and they're pretty much like, I always took things harder than everyone else, so no one could tell me anything that I wasn't feeling myself, and I always felt like I'd let people down. That was my big thing in football, is like letting people down, sort of thing. So I always took it hard myself. My family was just there trying to support me, saying, "Look, you've obviously tried to do the right thing. It's fine. We all make mistakes, and that's fine. Like, come back in 3 games time, and it's all good. Just work hard now." And yellow cards, I've become numb to them because I get them so much, to be fair. So I'm not too bothered about yellow cards. Early yellow cards annoy me, because then I've got to sort of change my game maybe for the rest of the game. It doesn't leave me one in the back pocket to use later on for a desperate tackle or anything. But red cards, yeah, it not a nice feeling. But luckily I haven't had many of them.
Before we talk about Leyton Orient and Barnet, let's just go ahead and talk about I think it was your last call-up to the national team in 2017. You were on the bench for New Zealand, Azerbaijan and San Marino. There was 3 wins and 3 clean sheets, which I'm sure you would have been proud of if you were playing. And those were qualifications for the World Cup in Russia, which would have been the following year. You were called up at that time. You must have been expecting to play, right?
No, not at all. I was, and looking back now, it's probably my problem. I always went there with the mindset that I was just literally going there just to make up the numbers, to be honest. And maybe part of that was the fact that the centre backs at the time were Johnny Evans, Aaron Hughes, Craig Cathcart. I'm probably doing someone a disservice there who I'm missing out, but their strongest position was probably centre back. And I'm never ever going to break in front of them. But I maybe if I'd have a different mindset of like, I'm a good player here as well, and I can, if we play a back 3, I can contribute here, I can do that. Or if someone gets injured, or if Aaron Hughes needs a rest. But I never had that mentality. It was more of like, I'm never ever going to play. And these players are just ridiculous, playing in the Premier League at the highest level every week, and unreal. And I'm, at Bury with respect, and rightly or wrongly, my mindset was that. And I think the manager actually said that to me at one point. It's just like, it's as if you don't have the confidence in yourself when you come here, and you feel like the other players are maybe better than you. But there was, Stephen Davis, there was some really big sort of players there, and who playing for big clubs. And like I said, rightly or wrongly, I didn't believe that I was probably good enough to be there at that time. And so I think that was probably my last set of call-ups. But I always went there, and if I'm lucky, I was on the bench. But usually I was probably one of the 2 or 3 that didn't make the bench. It was still an absolute honour to be called up, and I loved it. And for my family, it just means to be involved in that setup, and then being able to watch training sessions and see me on the bench or warming up in at Windsor Park or at these other stadiums was unbelievable. But in hindsight, maybe the mindset wasn't quite what it needed to be at that point.
But there must have been some sort of inkling in you where you were thinking the World Cup is right around the corner. I mean, you went on to go, and it was weird when I looked at it. Germany won 10 out of 10. They finished first. Northern Ireland second. And then you played against Switzerland, and over 2 legs you lost 1-0 in the second round of the qualifiers. But the inkling in you must have been, you're holding Switzerland out in these games. I mean, obviously you lost by the 1 goal and you weren't called up at the time. But you must have been watching that and thinking, if someone gets injured, I'm in the running to go to a World Cup.
Yeah, no, I definitely was thinking that. I was definitely thinking, please get through, because anything can happen. Like you said, a couple of injuries and you're in. Or I think they take a bigger squad to tournaments. So I've been part of most of the last however many camps. I'm definitely in the fold there. So I was definitely hopeful they'd get through. So yeah, and even to this day, I'm still cheering them all on. And Michael O'Neill, I think he's a great manager. And I never played under him, but I still feel as if he's done so much for that country, so much for the team. I think looking back at that team now, the team and squad we had some great players in there, but to qualify for Euros and, like you said, nearly be on the brink of qualifying for a World Cup was a massive overachievement, I think, definitely for the size of the country. So got massive respect for him as a manager, massive love for them as a country, and I've had some great times there, and the fans and the people I've met over there just make it a bond that I'll always have, sort of thing. So I always wanted to do well, but like I said, it wasn't meant to be in the end, and maybe some of the decisions I made, signing for club wise, maybe affected my progression in the team as well. But yeah, it was meant to be in the end.
Is there any sort of reconciliation? Could you go back into that Northern Ireland team?
What now?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think that ship sailed. The age I'm at and the way my career's sort of gone the last couple of years. You never say never. You never know who I'm going to sign for this summer. But you never know. Gareth McCauley was playing to his 38, wasn't he? So you never know. But I would say no at the moment.
You had a long-term injury, one of the first you had at Leyton Orient, and I saw a video of it. I think it may have been during the lockdown, 2021, so it would have been during coronavirus. What was that like to come out of such a long-term injury that you had?
Yeah, it was horrible, really. And looking back now, it was probably the moment where my other injuries started happening, to be fair. Before that point, I never really had an injury. Dislocated shoulder when I was at Southend, which wasn't horrendous. And apart from that, I was really fit and healthy. And then I sort of 6 games into my Leyton Orient career, I got broke my ankle, went up for a header, got knocked out for a few seconds. And as I landed, my ankle, whatever, partially dislocated it, broke it, and slight displacement of one of the bones. So yeah, it wasn't a nice one. It broke an ankle pretty much, and it just wasn't right for a good few years after that, really, and affected me massively and led to other things happening. I think then my Achilles on the other side, maybe as compensation. So for the last 2 years, I've had to pretty much play through my Achilles injury, and it hasn't been right. So for a whole season, I had pretty much tendonitis, or what I thought was tendonitis. At the end of the season, went to see a specialist, and he said 60% of your Achilles is torn off the bone. Had to have surgery on that, which then affected me the following season, which was last season, and just coming back from that was hard, but I felt like I got to a point where I felt good, and obviously then end up coming online to Barnet, but still, I was still playing games, and then the next day or 2 days or 3 days later, I just couldn't walk properly, and I couldn't jog through training, and I was just sort of getting myself out there for games. So it was definitely a hard time from when I broke the ankle, but just had a little procedure now, and basically it's cleaned up all the problems that I was having with that Achilles. So I'm so glad that I've got that done now, and I'm just so, even now, just sort of starting to walk around, I can feel the difference already, and I'm just like, I wish I would have got it done earlier, but I'm just so excited at at the feeling I can have of maybe playing to my potential again. Even though a bit of an older age, still 31, so still probably got a lot of life left in me, and I just want to show people what I can sort of really do. And I felt I did well at Barnet anyway, but I didn't feel like I still was given my potential. So my mindset is I'm excited to show people what I can do still. I still feel I can play at a good level, and I'm just waiting to see what opportunity comes about, and I want to help a team and hopefully get my 5th promotion. So yeah.
Well, good luck with that. But let's just talk about Barnet really quickly. Obviously, they were having a great season, weren't they? Promotion charging after a few seasons of missed, after getting relegated from League Two. The team are really young. They're really youthful. Idris Kanu, who I've had on the show, really good guy, really quick, really skillful, a great player overall. and they have got a young team, and you were going in there as one of the more senior players. What was that like? You played 11 games, but getting that first contact in late January to say that Barnet were interested.
Yeah, the contact come a lot earlier than that, to be fair. Probably come about November time, and come through Connor Smith, who I used to play with at Watford, the assistant manager at Barnet, and just basically said, look, we're looking for a player of your sort of ilk experience and this and that. What are you thinking? And I'm thinking, I'd be interested in that. I said I would like to play higher. Probably I'm not playing in League One, so ideally I'd probably like to think I can play in League Two. Got promoted from League Two last season, so look. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna look at League Two first. And in December, Colchester sort of made clear that they want to sign me on loan. With a view to permanence. So I sort of thought, right, okay, here we go, perfect. League Two, a team, not doing great, but someone I could feel I could help with my leadership and quality and whatsoever. So, and then the new managers come in, and basically sort of they had their own sort of players they wanted to bring in, and that was that. So then got in contact with Barnet again, or they got in contact with me and said, look, what's happening? I said, yeah, look, okay, then I'll come, because I just needed to play games at that point and show people that I'm not, that I'm still there, because I'd been injured for a little while. So I probably got out of the loan what I wanted to, got a run of 11, 12 games sort of thing, and sort of show people that I'm not getting injured every game and stuff like that. And it was good. The lads were unbelievable. I knew Coke's already, Ben Coker from Southend, so he sort of helped get me in as well. And that helped me settle in. But just the group of lads were so good there, and it was so local for me. So I loved every minute of it, really.
Talk to us about that Leyton Orient promotion, because I completely forgot they got promoted last year along with Stevenage. So talk to us about that promotion party.
Yeah, so good. Just like one of the best teams I've ever been involved with in terms of quality, and the togetherness was unbelievable. And we were honestly still got a group chat together to this day. We're just all if we ever see each other, we're just biggest smile, biggest hug. And anyone will tell you, anyone they've been promoted with that sort of group of the same thing, you can see them at any point throughout your lifetime, and you know that you're just going to chat about those times together, and you're going to have that bond forever. And it was just unbelievable. And it was bigger than getting promoted. It was us. It was the process of it all, and how hard we'd worked and what we'd gone through, and the nights out and the Christmas parties and meeting up with girlfriends and wives of each other. And it was just a brilliant time. And just one of the times you look back in your life and just think that was amazing. And it was a bit surreal in the end, because we got promoted probably with 4 or 5 games to go still. So, usually you sort of envisage that last day, yes, we're promoted, or have they lost, or have they drawn? And we've done it with 4 or 5 games to go. So it's a bit of a weird ending to the season, because you sort of want to be celebrating, but you still got games to prepare for. But yeah, it was just an amazing season.
Just quickly, you scored a goal for Barnet in that return in the 11 games. 1 goal versus Solihull Moors, who, yes, they lost to, didn't they? 4-0 in the playoffs, in the time where it mattered. The big favourites Barnet were. What was going on behind the scenes in the build-up to that game, which they ultimately lost?
We tried to focus in a bit more, which I'm sure any team will. Now it's the playoffs, and everything. Let's just try and up the standards a little bit of everything, even though the standards were good anyway. I sort of suggested that we bring in he doesn't like to be called a psychologist, but like a mindset performance coach who I work with, and basically just give us a rundown of techniques to use to sort of keep your nerve and to help you sort of perform at the level you can without sort of nerves or outside experiences affecting you. So we thought we had it all sort of nailed down, to be honest. The training was great that week, and we had the sort of the mindset coach there come in with us, and everything was there ready. We was at home, obviously, where it was a fortress, and then these things happen, and that is football. And Solihull Moors, to be fair to them, turned up on the day, and they were very, very good, and we weren't great. So yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. That's happened twice now, isn't it? In the last 2 years of Barnet. So it's there's definitely learnings to be taken from it. But as a preparation standpoint, I don't think we could have done much more. So, yeah, it's a tough one.
I was there on that day, and I was going there really expecting and hoping for Barnet to get to Wembley. I mean, look, you mentioned that the preparation was as probably as good as it could have been, but obviously, was it just one of those things where Solihull really turned up on that day, and some of their fans were going quite crazy, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, our fans were unbelievable that day. I remember thinking, because I remember doing an interview before and saying, like, look, these playoff games can throw up all sorts of surprises and different things. I said, look, if we go 1-0 up, 2-0 up, brilliant. If we go 1-0 down, 2-0 down, that's when we need you. And I distinctly remember us going 1-0 down and 2-0 down, and the fans still singing straight after the goals, and it was so like the loudest I've ever heard it in there. Obviously, I was only there for a few months, but like it was brilliant, and it was packed out. I couldn't get a seat in there, and it was really, really good. And I remember thinking, like, they are sticking my hand, I see it. And it didn't matter because, just like you said, on the day, Solihull, maybe their athleticism, their game plan. I think sometimes at home, when I was playing, especially, sort of felt in games that we was always expected to win, and we always wanted to win, and we always felt we was good enough to win. So sometimes that could play against us because we was too eager to win, too eager to score, and then we were susceptible maybe to a counter or to So and I think that maybe could have happened as well. And there's obviously, look, you got Addy, who was out for a period of time. You got Pritch that was out for a period of time, and they're probably fitness wise not 100% at that point. Obviously, any football will tell you, even if you're out for a couple of weeks, you lose a percentage of it, let alone a couple of months. So it was, there was a few factors, but I think the main one was that Solihull were very, very good on that day. And this is the thing with the playoffs. They'd got that win against Halifax on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and you sort of think, well, are they going to be tired? But sometimes that galvanises teams, and they have actually a bit more confidence to think, hang on, we beat them. I think we're going to go and beat them now. And you got that feeling that their sort of confidence was, the tails were up for that day, and we had a week to think and prep, and maybe sometimes you can over prep. You don't know. I haven't really dissected it yet, to be honest, mentally in my head. But all I know is that we'd done everything that we thought was good, was going to help us win the game, and it wasn't enough in the end. So we was gutted, yeah.
How do you mentally prepare and physically prepare for the pre-match, the game that is building up throughout the week, Tuesday, Saturdays? What is the pre-match routine that you stick by?
Me personally?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a Saturday to Saturday game, early on in the week, diet-wise, I'll have not many carbohydrates at all, be all protein sort of thing, very, very clean, and you train very, very hard. And then as you get to sort of your Thursday, Friday, I'm loading up on carbs, a bit more rice, a bit more pasta. Friday night, just absolute ridiculous on pasta. And then ready to go sort of energy-wise Saturday. In terms of training-wise, I'm always 100% on training, no matter what it is. So, yeah, that's just my preparation. I have to be 100% at training every day. And I'm very sort of strict on my diet as well. So that's, for me, I'm in it mentally and physically for the whole 10 months of the season. I can't come off at any point. Some players like to have like a sort of a down session Friday, or I'm not feeling great today, so I won't. I'll do a bit less today, but I can't do that really. So yeah, that's it. And then when you throw Tuesday night games in there, that is the point between Saturday and Tuesday when you sort of carry on the carbs for me, and maybe you do take it down a little bit in terms of training, especially with the injury I was carrying and stuff like that. I couldn't train some days, so. But yeah, everyone to their own really. But that's what I do.
So you said to me before we started that you're currently looking for a move. You're out of contract now. Technically, tomorrow you're out of contract on the 31st of May. What is on the horizon for you now? Obviously, you're 31. You'd probably like to settle down with one, maybe two clubs left. What would you say? What's on the horizon right now?
I've got no idea. And it's exciting. It's because I've got no idea. So I think usually, as a footballer, you're usually in situations where it's like, right, I've got... what's the date now? We've got 3 weeks till I'm back running around a track, and okay, and and it's all very set out. And it's like, oh, like okay, we've got this manager coming in, and you know what you're doing. Whereas I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've been a free agent. Obviously, the situation at Bury when they folded was a bit different. So they folded, and then I'm sort of then haven't got a club. But luckily, I'd played about 56 games that season, so I knew I was going to get something decent. Whereas now, obviously, coming off the back of playing a few games with Barnet, but apart from that, I've had a couple of injuries, so I don't know what to expect. I don't know. A club's sort of looking, thinking, well, he's had a couple of injuries, so this and that, or a club's looking, thinking he has now hopefully sorted that injury with the procedure he's had, and he's got 4 promotions and played a lot of games and blah 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 blah. I'm hoping they go towards that way, and I just don't know what level the opportunities are going to come at, but I'm going to prepare everything every way I can off the pitch to make sure I'm as fit and as strong and as quick and as mentally prepared as I've ever been, and to give myself the best chance, because I'm definitely not done yet, and I want to get as good a club as possible, and I want to get another promotion hopefully. So hopefully get a successful club. So yeah, no, I'm excited really either way, and if it doesn't happen for whatever reason that is, I'm also excited for whatever happens next, the next step of my non-footballing career. So yeah.
I mean, Dean Brennan's made a ridiculous number of signings now. I think about 7 signings already. I mean, could you be on the cards to return to Barnet, or is that out the window?
I think there was talk that they was interested at first, and then I sort of said about sort of the procedure I'm having, and they said, okay, well, look, you know, we'll see how that goes then. And in the meantime, I think they've signed about 8 centre backs probably. So reading between the lines, I would say that offer is probably not there on the table. But yeah, again, you know, I'm just going to work as hard as I can, and I want to get the best club I can. And obviously, I feel like most of my career has been sort of League One, League Two. I feel like I've had success out of them with them clubs. You know, 3 promotions from League Two, 1 promotion from League One. So I still feel like I've got a lot to offer at that sort of level, and definitely playing wise, and I hope I get the opportunity to do that. Really.
Last thing from me: would you ever consider playing football abroad?
Only if they brought my family with me, my missus, my kids, my mum, my brother, my brother's missus, my brother's missus, my brother's kid, who's on the way in a couple of months. So it would require a big package. So I don't know if any clubs are willing to do that with me at the moment. But yes, if that was the case, then yes. If not, then probably not.
Adam, I wish you all the best for the future. It's been a great chat today with you, and I wish you all the best in your career.
Thanks so much, Jamie, mate.